Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Motorcycle Rescue and Review. Alright guys, it is time for the moment of truth. I am with my 1986 FJ1200 project. 1986 was the first year for the Yamaha FJ1200. This was an evolution of their earlier 1984 and 85 FJ1100 motorcycles. And although it looks very, very similar to that, it has a host of improvements on the bike. I have a review of my other 1986 FJ1200. If you want to hear more of the history of the bike and the specs of the bike and see what an FJ1200 is like to ride, you can click the link above. Just as a recap up to this point in the project, I have purchased this bike a couple of months ago as a non-runner. It has 36,000 original miles on it, and it is in very nice cosmetic overall condition. It is almost completely all original. It still has the original exhaust on it. I picked this bike up as part of a 3 motorcycle deal, and I have been working on it slowly to bring it back to life. In a previous episode, we've looked at the braking system and talked about that. I have gone through and I've bled out the brake system and cleaned my pistons front and back, and now the brakes are functioning as they should. I can actually roll the bike. I've also serviced a chain and done some preliminary checks on wheel bearings and such to make sure that this bike is ready to roll once I get it up and running. I'll have a dedicated playlist for this FJ1200. If you want to check out that playlist, you can click the link in the description below. I have not started this bike up yet since I've owned it. The weather has really not cooperated at all this year, but we finally got a couple of days this week that are above the freezing mark. So I'm outside and actually able to film. As you can see, I have removed the gas tank from the FJ. The removal of the gas tank went fairly smoothly. The only issue that I had was there was a 3-wire clip that had been removed from the system, and the 3 wires had been hardwired into the wiring harness on the bike. And so I actually had to cut the 3 wires to get the fuel tank off the bike. I spent a little bit of time trying to figure out what somebody else had done there. In the end, I'm not sure, but I'll have to wire in a new clip for that junction so that I can remove that easily when I go to take the fuel tank on and off the bike. I've done several other things to the bike since our previous update to make sure that it is safe to start up and ready to start up. The first thing I did was I checked out the interior of the air box. I checked out my air filter. Thankfully, the air filter looked to be just about brand new. It looked great. There was some mouse residue on the inside of the air box. I have cleaned that completely out. That's all good to go now. I've got that all buttoned back up. In the process, I have hooked up a fuel bottle here to the fuel system so that this bike is ready to start up. And I have also just used a backside of a drill bit to block off my vacuum line here so that it starts up as it should without the vacuum petcock on it. Another thing I've done is remove the coil pickup cover on the left side of the bike. That's the kickstand side of the motorcycle. There are 4 JIS screws that need to be removed, and then you simply pull that cover off. I had also taken out all of my spark plugs. I sprayed some WD-40 in each of the cylinders, and I let that sit for a while. And then I took a 14mm socket, and I actually used that to turn the motor over several times to make sure that the motor was free before I hit it with the power from the battery. I didn't want to risk damage to my starting system at all. I'm happy to say that the motor turned over very freely. It was not frozen at all or seized in any way, not even lightly. It just rotated freely. That's what I want to see. I also made a final oil level check on the motorcycle to make sure that it had the proper amount of oil in it. The oil looks very clear through the sight glass. It is at the proper level. And so I have reinstalled my spark plugs. I have hooked up the wires, and we are ready to try and start this bike up. If you like great motorcycle content and you want to help support this channel, please consider becoming a member. Members get perks like early access to new videos and bonus content on this channel, and your support will help me continue to make great quality motorcycling videos for you to enjoy. And I just want to give a special shout out to all of my members and subscribers and those of you who participate in the comment section of this channel. Thank you guys so much. I could not do this without you. One last thing I'll mention here is that I took the battery and I charged it overnight and made sure that it has a full charge on it. That's ready to go. I'm going to pull the bike into a location where it's a little bit further away from the house if there are any issues, and I will fire this thing up, hopefully. All right, guys, it is time for the moment of truth. I have some fresh fuel in my fuel bottle. I have that hooked up to the carburetors. I have the line open here that is allowing fuel to flow down into the carburetors. It looks like it has stopped flowing, so the carburetor float bowls should be full. I'm looking here, I don't see any leaking gas. I don't smell any leaking gas. Everything looks good. So let's see if she'll fire up. I have my choke full on. All right, guys, I don't know if you can tell, but I am super stoked. I am so glad that this bike fired up, that I was able to get it running. The engine sounds good. I don't hear any scary noises from the motor. It did hold an idle fine once it was up to temperature and fully warmed up. The charging system seems to be operating like it should. The FJs in particular seem to charge a little bit higher than most motorcycles do. They charge about a volt higher. Both of my FJs charge at about 15.5 volts when they are warmed up. This one does the same, so I'm not concerned about that. The charging system looks healthy. If you noticed when I started the bike up, there was a significant amount of smoke coming out of the exhaust system. Some of that is residue from the WD-40 I sprayed into the cylinders. That's not concerning to me. And also, it's a very humid day. It's honestly very foggy out and it's cold. So you're seeing the water vapor condensing when it hits the air. And once the bike was fully up to temperature, it was not smoking at all. And that's a great sign. My next steps on this project are cleaning out the fuel tank, making sure that's perfectly clean inside. I'll probably install an automotive style fuel filter in line in the fuel system just to prevent any crud from getting down into the carburetors. I hate cleaning carbs, and I run fuel filters on all of my classic bikes. Although I bled out the brake system earlier, I have had a little bit of leaking around the sight glass for the brake fluid level on my master cylinder here. I'm going to have to take care of that. I'm not sure exactly how yet. I have to do some research there. Additionally, it seems like my front brake pistons are still hanging up just slightly. I can roll the bike around, but it's a little bit more high effort than I would like it to be. I think this bike will be ready to go and ready to take out for a test drive as soon as the weather cooperates. It's really sloppy out right now and cold and icy. I definitely don't want to wreck a classic bike on my first test drive, so I will wait for nicer weather. But I can't wait for the warmer weather to get here and for me to be able to put some miles on this FJ, get it completely sorted out, and I just love rescuing these classics. This one is a fun one. I love to get bikes that are already in nice shape but maybe not running and bring them back to life. And there's always a tremendous sense of accomplishment when you rescue a non-runner and you put another one of these great classic machines back out on the road. As always, I hope you found this video entertaining and informative, and until next time, enjoy the ride.